Thank you very much, everyone. And yes, good afternoon and welcome to the Harbours Subcommittee. I think this is possibly the first time, well, I know it's the first time the Harbours Subcommittee has been chaired from Creetown. I'm not sure if it's the first time that a D&G Council meeting has been chaired from Creetown, but you're very welcome anyway. So before us today, we have the agenda. So I'll start first of all with the first item, Sedern and apologies. And I would just confirm my approval for members' remote participation in this meeting.
Thank you, Chairman. We've got 6 members present, all participating remotely through Microsoft Teams. I've got one apology from Richard Brodie, and Jane Maitland is substituting for him today, and not present at the start is Councillor Giusti.
That's great, thank you. And I see we have some of our observers as well who sit as substitutes, so you are also very welcome to the meeting this afternoon. So second item, is there any declarations of interest from anyone? I would also just ask if everybody could use the chat function on Teams, and that way I can keep an eye of who would like to come in and speak. But are there any members wish to declare an interest? Nope. Okay, in that case, we'll move on to item 3, which is the previous minutes, and these are for noting only. Are members happy to note the previous minutes?
Happy to note.
Thank you, John. Okay, so if we move on to the first substantial item on the agenda, which is agenda item number 4, this is the report on the Port Marine Safety Code audit review undertaken by our designated person, William Heaps, who is on the call here should we need any assistance. But first of all, I'll just go to officers. Is there anything that you wish to add or speak to on the report, please?
Apologies, I'm not up to the technology there, Chair. Nothing to add to the report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in that case, I will open it up to members for any discussion or any questions that they wish to raise today. Oh, there we go. So I've got Councillor Young. I see your hand up, and then I see Jane would like to come in as well. So Councillor Young.
Thank you, Chair. I note at 3.10 on page 13, the 3-year contract's being extended for 6 months. Does that extension involve any costs to the Council?
So thank you, Chair. Councillor Young, no, we've discussed this with Marico on the basis that we were not getting a full service from them over the last year, particularly with regards to the audit that would have been undertaken early part of 2020. They've offered to extend by 6 months. So the only costs that will be involved would be for support of additional work, as has already been agreed by this committee. They would have been paid whether we'd undertaken the additional work during the 3-year contract or within the further 6 months. So there's no additional costs associated with this.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councillor Young. Councillor Maitland, you were looking to speak.
Thanks, Katie. What I was looking at is the management of navigation. This is in the appendix. And it's talking, Chairman, about the possibility of enforceable control through general directions with respect to some sort of fishing activity in Kakubri in this particular instance. And I wonder if we could please have some explanation of what that is all about.
Yeah, certainly. Thanks, Councillor Maitland. I've talked with the designated person, William Heaps, about this, and it's one of the things which have yet to action from the enactment of the Kakubri Harbour Revision Order, which does give us extra powers. And gives us a much better basis on which to run that body of water as opposed to local bylaws, which is what we were previously doing. Up until now, that hasn't happened, and really, to a certain extent, isn't necessary with a smooth running harbour. There are still problems with the navigation in Kirkcudbright Bay, as there is with all bodies of water at times. And the designated person was actually there to witness berthing at first hand one day, and the inherent problems there within. Part of the problem with the berthing is a finite amount of space that we have on the quay wall for commercial boats. And we put a lot of work into berthing. We do now have the possibility of doing that by general directions and special directions, if need be, to vessels collectively or individually. But at the moment, we are in a situation where things are running pretty smoothly. On navigational safety as well, we do have other boats to consider, vessels of all types. This would, mostly be boats used for leisure, for navigation purposes, and commercial fishing vessels, although we do have a little bit of other variations of traffic. And there are incidents occasionally with both types of vessel. There's been a bit between the two, and in our navigation risk assessments, hopefully all of the potential problems are taken into account. So, but that is something that we need to work on and develop how we're going to use the HRO for Kirkcudbright to our best advantage.
May I come back, Katie?
Absolutely. Yes, go for it, Jane.
Thank you very much. Just because of the way it works out, I happen to be extremely familiar with Kirkcudbright and with the vessels that are in and out of there. And I very much appreciate what the officer is telling us, that generally speaking, the thing runs very smoothly. And I am disinclined to go in with a sledgehammer, where a little bit of advice and care and push and shove would be probably more appropriate. So to my mind, this is about risk assessment. And if the risk has been assessed by the officers as being at a particular level, and they are comfortable about working along that lines, and it is presented to us, then it's up to us to consider whether or not we are comfortable with that level of risk or not. Which leads me on, Katie, to the next question, which is kind of really asking about the organisation and scheduling of our performance management and risk assessment in this subcommittee. And I think, in order for us as duty holder to feel really comfortable that we're on top of it, I think I would like to see a kind of forward plan as to what we should be receiving in order to keep us all on the right lines and safe. But with that, I'm quite sure we can make some arrangement and maybe come to an agreement as to what we receive and how we receive it. But I'm generally speaking, I'm very comfortable about this sort of level of information coming to us. I think we're getting more of a handle upon what are the issues, and we take an appropriate stance to it.
Yeah, no, thank you for those points, Jane. I think they are very welcome, and clearly we do get our 6-month reports from Marico via William, and there has been delays on that. But I just wanted to ask if officers wanted to come back on any of these points.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I'll come back on the first point that of Councillor Maitland's second turn at the mic there. Yeah, we would fully support that, and in terms of trying to manage the harbour by, Will's, diplomatic skills, and rather than reverting to general directions or even special directions. However, ultimately, if that's required, then obviously that decision lies with Will for the safety of the harbour, as you're as your regional harbour master for that. So he would obviously take guidance and seek support from the designated person in anything like that, as we would with. We would obviously speak to others within the authority, legal services perhaps, if there were particular challenges on that. But yeah, very much so his approach has been to work with the fishing community particularly, rather than use the sledgehammer as you rightly described.
Thank you, James. Pauline Drysdale, you were looking to come in.
Hi, thanks Katie. Hi everybody, good morning, good afternoon even. I'm aware this is my first committee meeting for Harbours, and I'd like to thank Will Jones, thank you for giving me some last minute training yesterday. Katie, Chair, sorry, could I just ask a couple of points please, if that's possible. Page 10, I just had a little bit of a concern on point 3.3, which is at the top of the page, whereby I note that the document states, in general, council insurance would cover members undertaking their role as a duty holder. And I suppose from my point of view, just having had one session and being made a duty holder so quickly, I have a little bit of an alarm bells are ringing with the word in general would be covered by the council. So James, I'd really appreciate your feedback on that if that's possible. And Chair, if I could also ask, moving on to the, again, it's a bit on the back of Councillor Maitland's points here on page 23, which is with regards to the 6 monthly report, which is the appendix number 2. And it states on here that on page 26 in the first block at the bottom, that we have no clear procedures at present, which I do understand, for dealing with a vessel master suspected of being under the influence of drink and drugs. I'm aware that hopefully this will come into force at some point, but I did, funnily enough, by complete chance, get reports last night of one of the, I can't remember the exact word here, apologies, but the commercial vessel master being under the influence of drugs. Now, I'm aware last night he wasn't actually operating his vehicle or his fishing boat, but I think it's something we probably need to look at going forward, especially if we are being given this amount of this level of responsibility. So again, I would possibly require some feedback on that from either of the officers here today. Thank you, Chair.
Yeah, no, thank you for those. And certainly on your first point, I think everybody who has sat on this committee has looked at that, and there has been concerns of how much of an individual responsibility do we have on this committee. But certainly that's something that has been raised many times, and I'll pass over to officers to hopefully give you the reassurance that we're not going to be individually accountable and end up in a difficult situation. But I'll pass over to the officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, as the Chair refers to, Councillor Drysdale, it has been discussed on a number of occasions over the years as to what the responsibilities are. It's our understanding that so long as you fulfil your role as a duty holder and don't take on a role as some other operational role within the Harbour Service. So if you were to appear down Kirkcudbright Harbour and start directing fishing vessels, then you're going beyond your role as a duty holder, and you're then doing things that are not within your remit. So in general, the council insurance covers members, refers to them undertaking the role as a duty holder. If you overstep that mark and start instructing, navigational operations and such like, then it's at that point that, you're basically acting out with it, as it would be if you decided to help the road service by closing roads or directing traffic. You would be not really covered by council insurance. So it's not being considered, on the discussions with legal services and such like, it's not been considered a concern for members with regards to their role in this subcommittee. With respect to the drugs and alcohol part, I'll maybe pass over to, I will pass over possibly to William Heaps, but first to Will Jones can maybe fill in a little bit on that.
Yeah, thanks, James. Thanks to the question, Councillor Drysdale, and obviously information, good and bad, travels very fast these days. This isn't necessarily an example of good news, and I was first made aware of it on Saturday lunchtime when I was contacted by the MCA regarding a possible incident. I've had a couple of conversations with them since, and we do have a boat currently impounded in Stranraer, and I've been asking them questions about why that is. I've had extensive conversations with the company who owned the boat before this incident happened, and I've tried to since, but they're a bit uncontactable. But the Maritime and Coast Guard Agency have been very forthcoming. I've been contacting somebody from the Glasgow office who's kindly kept me up to date. And it is a very serious problem in the industry, this being a very vividly poignant problem because there is audio-visual evidence of what's been going on. Thought I was being, because we are being recorded. So there is some sensitivity around the subject. And James is applying the emergency brakes on me, maybe a little bit prematurely, but I'm not going to reveal anything confidential or sensitive. But the problem with the vessel from a being impounded point of view is one of stability relating to its commercial coding. But there is also obviously a problem with the crewing of the vessel, which I'm as interested in as I am with the commercial coding of the vessel. There has been discussions about what the MCA are empowered to do in this situation. The officer of the MCA I spoke to, Mr. Allotson from Glasgow, said that maybe under the Merchant Shipping Act, the Rail and Transport Safety Acts, they can do something, but they are very limited as to what they can do. With the actual vessel itself, they have wide-ranging powers. As to the crewing of the vessel, it's a much more complicated matter, especially where controlled substances are concerned. So it's something that, unless they can get onto in real time, it's quite hard for them to pursue. Because I said to them, I asked him straight out, why has this guy still got a ticket to skipper a vessel when this has happened more than once?
Thank you, Will. I don't know, William Heaps, are you able to come in? Is there anything that you wish to add at this point to the discussion?
No, I think probably the finding that the council referred to was more to do with the procedures being documented in the safety management system, so that should this situation arise, action be taken quickly. From the words you heard from Will, he was taking action, but yes, it's much more a procedural point I was making.
Okay. No, thank you for that, and thank you, Will, for your input. I'm glad to hear that we do have a good relationship with the MCA, and you're able to discuss these matters with them. So that's certainly reassuring to me as chair of this committee. Councillor Young, you were looking to come back in to speak again.
Thanks, Katie. I was going to raise the same concerns as Councillor Drysdale regarding no clear procedures for coping with vessel masters being under the influence, but that's been fully answered now, so thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I don't have any other members indicating that they wish to speak, so if we can go to the recommendations on this report, if members are happy. We have recommendation 2.1 and 2.2, which are for noting. Are we happy to note those?
Noted.
And then we're looking to agree that for the focus for the Regional Harbour Master with support from Marico Marine. Are we happy to agree those?
Agreed.
And to note 2.4, the contract from Marico.
Noted.
Okay, thank you, members. So if we move on to item number 5, Item number 5 is an update on harbour matters, covering staffing, COVID-19 impacts on service and current and proposed capital works. So I would just put it out to officers. Is there anything that you wish to add to the report?
Nothing to add to the report.
Okay, so I'll put it back to members. Is there any questions or anything that you have or points you wish to raise? Councillor Maitland, you're in first there.
Thanks very much. Yes, I was interested to see at 3.1.2 that we have put in extra capacity, and that's absolutely fine. I'm no particular difficulty, but I always like to see the justification behind it. So maybe I should have a little bit of help about why we needed extra capacity at this point.
Thank you. I'll pop that back to the officers.
Thank you, Chair. So the additional capacity was brought in, Councillor Maitland, to cover a long-term sickness absence within the Harbours service. And at the time that long-term sickness absence ended, another member of the team left the service, so we retained the additional resource within the service. So it was slightly more hours than would have been the case, but we had somebody who was clearly trained to work within the service, had the right qualifications, and somebody we'd spent some time on getting the qualifications. So that's why that's remained as it currently is. Moving forward, we would obviously, as an operational matter and keeping members advised, we've looked to maintain this level of staffing within the service, which sees a slight increase in hours for that, given a sort of two staff generally based at Stranraer and 2 staff generally based at Kirkcudbright. Current COVID restrictions permitting, of course.
Thank you, James. Is there any other members have any questions on this item? No. So in that case, if we move to the recommendations, we are being asked to note 2.1 and 2.2 and agree 2.3. Are members happy to move those?
Happy to move.
Thank you, Councillor Young. So if we move on to item number 6, this is Stranraer and Loch Ryan Harbour Revision Order update. Now, members who've been on the committee a while you'll see that we have been making some progress with this, albeit perhaps not at the speed that we would like to have seen. However, I'll put it back to the officers to see if there's anything else that they wish to add further to the report.
Nothing to add to the report, Chair.
Okay. And do members have any questions that they would like to raise at this point? Councillor Young, I've seen your hand up there.
Thanks, Katie. It's more a general question, Katie. If Ryan becomes export with customs and all the infrastructure, will that affect in any way this harbour revision order?
I think that's a question that we all want to know of what's going to happen come the 1st of January. But certainly, if I can put it back to council officers, has there been any discussions on this and the implications of Brexit and how this may affect the harbour revision order?
Specifically, Chair, I'm not aware of any specific impacts on the harbour revision order that would come about from any changes in the status of these 2 terminals, the Stenner and P&O terminals at Ryan. We've certainly discussed the harbour revision order with both Transport Scotland and the MCA, and at neither of those meetings was there any mention that the implications of Brexit would have upon the Harbour Revision Order. I'm not saying that Brexit's not going to have implications upon Ken Ryan and other matters, but from the point of view of the Council promoting a Harbour Revision Order, I don't see that this is an issue, but I'm certainly happy to take that back as part of our discussions with legal services. But I suspect the timescales that we're talking about, that we're looking to go back to the MCA with an updated document on how we want to take forward the management arrangements in the northern half of the loch, will be into January anyway. We will at that point be promoting the Harbour Revision Order at a time when we are, post 31st of December 2020. So it will be being fully progressed during once we've left the European Union.
Thank you, James. Councillor Maitland, you were looking to speak. I've got.
Thank you, Chairman. It's really just sort of 2 or 3 little points. This has dragged on. I'm not absolutely clear why COVID has really sort of gotten away, because much of this has been done online and through emails and all the rest of it. And I think I don't think it would be unreasonable to say that we should actually ask as a duty holder. I think we should probably be considering a timeline as to how this is going to be pushed ahead and what we're going to see and when, because it does appear to have gone on since 2011, and that's been kind. It's actually gone on for considerably longer than that. So that's the first thing I would say. Just as I read through it, there are a couple of tiny things which I wondered about. It's about publication, where you publish a Harbour Revision Order. At the moment we're saying newspapers, and I don't know whether that's up to date. Probably it should go on to FaceTime nowadays, Katie. So I don't know whether, and I don't think that would probably go down well in a Harbour Revision Order. But we need to think about how these things actually are produced now. And I'm aware that this, of course, is a legal document. On page 75, there is the discussion about a port information booklet. Now, I'm assuming that is the issue that comes up. It's immediately you Google in Dumfries and Galloway harbours, up comes the harbours and the information about harbours. I'm assuming that that's what is meant there. I can have confirmation about that. And the third thing, which is just for the sake of consistency, quite often the document refers to him or his, and occasionally they say him or her, and I think it should be consistent. You either do one or the other, but that's what one should do.
Yeah, no, I thank you, Jane. I appreciate all those points. Certainly, I am a huge fan of timelines, and certainly I think if we can get an indication of timeline for members, I think that would be very helpful. And certainly in terms of our communication and how we communicate, I think that we should always have a comms plan on there. But I'll put those points back to officers, if I may, for any comment. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Councillor Maitland, I'm probably going to come across as slightly defensive in the response here, so I apologise before I do. COVID has had an impact upon the progression of this piece of work over the last 9 months for a couple of reasons. One of them is that my time has been focused on other matters, particularly around the waste service and continuation of delivery of waste service and all that encompasses, and that for me has been a key priority in terms of reopening HWRCs or these side of things. But the other matter is that our partners in the 2 ferry companies, particularly Stenner, who obviously operate a lot of cruise ships as well, their focus was very much on surviving the pandemic, and they specifically asked to have meetings delayed for a period of time until such time as they were in a better place to to take that forward. So it has had an impact. Quite happy to look at a timeline in terms of where we go forward with the various actions that sit within the report. So around the completion of the Harbour revision order is one element, and the legal input required to that, and with the second element is the continued engagement with the MCA, and for them to take that to the MAIB, the Marine Accident Investigation Branch, and support our proposals going forward for the management of the northern half of the loch. You'll appreciate some of these things are out with our control, but still I can at least indicate when we can get information shared out with the organisation and put in an indication of how long it will take to come back in that regard. Just picking up on the publishing of the HRO, I mean, we'll just follow the current guidance in terms of where it's published. That may be on social media, but I suspect it will appear in things like the Edinburgh Gazette and local newspapers as well. The Port Information Booklet is the Council's Harbour Directory and information. In terms of the Harbour Order, referring to him or her or such like, we'll make sure that that's updated to reflect whatever the current requirements are in terms of a non-gender basis. Okay.
Thank you. That's all very comprehensive, I think. Are there any other members looking to speak on this item? I don't have any indications of hands up or on the chat function. Okay, in that case, let's move to the recommendations before us. Oh, Councillor Young, your hand's just popped up there.
Thank you, Katie. Just for clarification, is Kinryan Port and Loch Ryan Port are both mentioned in this? Are we talking about exactly the same place?
James, are you able to answer that one?
Excuse me. They're two separate harbours. One is Stennis facility and one is Port of Kinryan. I'm now going to turn around and just confirm which way around it is. Can you remind me? Loch Ryan Port is Stenner and Port of Kinryan Limited is P&O.
Thank you for that clarification.
Thank you. So, moving to the recommendations before us, we're being asked to note the progress made in 2.1 and to agree the continuing to receive updates via the monthly reports. Are members happy to agree those recommendations?
Noted and agreed, Katie.
Thank you. So item 7 is any other business, and I don't have any other business. So I would just like to thank you all for your time. Thank you to the officers and to members and our observers who I hope you've enjoyed observing our meeting online. So thank you, folks, and have a good afternoon and keep safe.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.